Hello everyone, it's Joe here from Draft FPL and welcome back to a weekly series helping you find some good value free agents and waiver pickups in Draft FPL. Game week 35, I know it's been a long hiatus, but thank you all for coming back to join me for the run-in. Just a few game weeks left, I'm back and I'm ready to make some draft picks. Let's get stuck straight into it. First up, we've got Tino Livramento, available in 93% of draft leagues, and that data is powered by draftfc.co.uk. As always, use code SNAKEDRAFT for 1 month's free trial. There's a link down below in the description. Very useful tool that I use every week. Looking at Livramento specifically, Newcastle's run-in is probably the strongest of any team, rivaled maybe by Chelsea, but I think from a defensive point of view, definitely Newcastle edges it. Sheffield United at home this week's a great fixture in 35, 36 Burnley away, then it's a double game week in 37 of Brighton at home, United away, then Brentford away in game week 38. So they've got a really nice run in. The defensive data's massively improved compared to a little while ago. I am recording this before Newcastle's game this week, so there is a chance that Trippier is back fit, but from what I have been seeing, it looks to me like he's going to be out for at least this game week and probably the majority of the rest of the season. There is also a chance that someone like Jacob Murphy could start at right back, but I think Livramento is more than likely to get the nod personally. And the fixtures are really strong, so I think getting a Newcastle defender for this run is really important, especially, game week 37, double game week, Sheffield United at home this week, 2 massive game weeks, and Livramento's got a bit of attacking threat about him and someone I'm definitely looking at getting. On the other hand, you could also look at Kraft, available in 94%. He's probably more certain to start, I would say. But definitely, not guaranteed as well. But I do think Kraft is likely to start the remainder of the games, so he could be someone you go for instead if you want that little bit more certainty over minutes with a little bit less attacking threat, I'd say. So it's a bit of a toss-up between the two of them. Kraft is probably a little bit safer, Livramento a little bit more exciting. Next up, we've got Harry Maguire, available in 68% of leagues. Those of you that are Patreons will know from my cheat sheets that United are currently the bottom ranked defence over the last 6 game weeks, and they have been for a few weeks. So it's not often I would back a defender from one of these teams, but it's Burnley at home this week, and then they do have 2 home games in the double in 37. There is like a bit of pressure on, there's a lot of pressure on Ten Hag, and there's a lot that United have been getting wrong lately. It wouldn't surprise me to see them kind of batten down the hatches a little bit and just try and keep clean sheets, because they'd probably pick up a few points from this run if they can keep a couple of clean sheets. So I think the defence isn't a terrible pick, especially because the defences are terrible basically across the board. Unless you can find a Man City defender this week, it's not looking great. It really is not looking great. So yeah, I think United is not a bad place to go. Dalot is probably the best option, but he is really highly owned, not available in many leagues at all. So Maguire is probably the next best. The one after that I'd look at is Wan-Bissaka, available in 64% of leagues. I think either of those are not terrible picks this week, and looking ahead to that double game week in game week 37, I'd try and avoid playing them in 36 and 38 if you can, but they're not horrendous fixtures where if they get subbed on, it's not the end of the world. Finally, in the complete 1 week punt territory, we've got Doherty, available in 92% of leagues. Luton at home this week is a really good fixture, but you're probably not going to want him after that. City away in 36, Liverpool away in 38. The only other decent fixture is Palace at home in 37, but 37 is a pretty big double game week, so you're likely trying to pick up those double game week players for 37 anyway. So I think Luton at home is probably the Wolves' last hurrah this season, but I do fancy it. So if you're looking to pick up someone with a single game week, good fixture, one off, then I think Doherty is a very good pick. On to midfielders then, and back at Newcastle, available in 46% of leagues, we've got Harvey Barnes. I've spoken about the fixtures already. Fantastic run-in, so I want as much of this team as I can. Harvey Barnes has kind of nailed down that right wing role for himself, and I think he's going to play out the rest of the season, barring any kind of injury. There's not really many choices for for Eddie Howe to rotate him, and he shouldn't really need to. They've got no other competitions. They can focus solely on the league, and Harvey Barnes is clear of any of his competition, in my opinion. So you can rely on him for those important game weeks: Sheffield United at home, Burnley away, and then a double. And then you can figure out if you want to keep him for that Brentford fixture in game week 38. But I think he's a really strong pick. If he's available, I'd definitely be looking to pick him up. On the slightly less exciting side of things, you've also got Elliot Anderson, available in 100% of leagues. He's quite defensive, playing in central midfield, but he does get forward a little bit, and he's definitely not a terrible pick. Someone I would look at mainly just for these fixtures, especially in a double game week 37. I think he's, in that scenario, worth a pickup. And Sheffield United at home, Burnley away, I mean, anything. These games could be any scoreline you can imagine. So I think getting as many of these Newcastle players as for 35, 36, 37 is kind of imperative. So I think Anderson is a solid pickup this week. Next up, we've got Conor Gallagher, available in 45% of leagues. 2 double game weeks for Chelsea. You notice I didn't pick any of the defenders. Well, I just don't like the defence. You know, they conceded a hatful of goals against Arsenal at the weekend. And there is a shout that the defence is worth going for, but I just didn't really like any of the options. You could look at Disasi. He was kind of widely available, but most of them were pretty well owned. And I'm not convinced about clean sheets for Chelsea, especially this game week for 35. Villa away, Tottenham at home. It's a really tough double game week from a defensive point of view, but I do think there'll be goals in both of these fixtures. Conor Gallagher's playing, week in, week out in that sort of attacking midfield role, and I think he's a valuable pick, to be honest. Most teams have got 4 games left. Chelsea have got 6, double in 35, West Ham at home in 36, double in 37, and Bournemouth at home in 38. It's a fantastic set of fixtures, and if you can get someone that's going to play sort of 80 plus minutes in all of those games, which Conor Gallagher probably will, I think they're well worth having, especially someone that plays in an attacking role. So he's not been kind of consistent with attacking returns so far this season, but I think when you're just looking at the hedge of the minutes point of view, he's definitely worth picking up. On a slightly more exciting but slightly more risky note, you could also look at Michaela Mudrick, available in 63% of leagues. Obviously those fixtures do look fantastic. There is a bit of competition for his spot in the team. So against Arsenal, Mudrick played on the left, Madueke played on the right, but obviously Cole Palmer was absent from that lineup. When he's back from illness, he'll be on the right, and it'll be one of Mudrick or Madueke on the left, or Raheem Sterling as well, who I've not even mentioned yet. I suspect Mudrick is first choice, and if I had to pick one of them, he'd be the one I'd go for, and I actually have got him in one of my teams. So I think he is most likely to get the most minutes, but if he doesn't start, they do have 2 doubles, so it's not the end of the world, because he is going to come off the bench in both of them, which pretty much makes it up to 1 full fixture anyway. So I think he's a pretty good risk to take over these next few game weeks, especially in the doubles. If he plays well, then you can happily start him for 36 and 38 in the single game weeks as well. If he doesn't do so well, then maybe you might want to bench or drop, but that is something we can garner when we got a bit more information. As it stands at the moment, I think he's a good pick. Finally then, from Tottenham, they also have 2 double game weeks, but the fixtures around that not quite as good. Arsenal at home, Chelsea away in this double's tough. I don't like the defence at all, so I'm not going for any of those. The front 3 likely to be Werner, Brennan Johnson and Son, all very highly owned. Then the midfield's quite hard to pick at the moment. Maddison's obviously in there, but he's very highly owned. Then you've got the likes of Sarr versus Bentancur. I think personally Sarr is probably going to come back in after the sort of humbling performance against Newcastle, but that's not a certainty. Bentancur could start ahead of him, but I personally like Sarr, and I think if you're just looking for let's take a punt on a double game week player, Sarr is not a terrible option. And finally, onto forwards, we've got Lyle Foster, available in 60% of leagues. Lyle is back in the Burnley starting lineup, and he's doing pretty well. He plays well, and I do think if he'd been available for Burnley all season, things might have gone slightly different for them, because he is a bit of a game changer. Looking at these fixtures coming up, I have not changed the colours, but to be honest, from an attacking point of view, it's not that far off. Man United away is a great fixture for goals. As I mentioned earlier, they are the bottom rated defence. Yes, okay, I have picked the defenders, so I'm hoping things might change for them, but realistically, it's not a terrible fixture for your third forward, which Foster will be. Newcastle at home after that is tough. Tottenham away, again, they're very leaky. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a fair few goals in that game. And then Forest at home in game week 38 is really strong. I always like to pick the home teams in game week 38 as much as I can. I do kind of think you seem to see a lot more home wins in game week 38 just because, you know, last game of the season, last home game in front of the fans, etc. So I think Foster's a pretty good pick. You probably don't want to start him as much as you can, but when we're looking at the available forwards, there's really nothing left. So I think in that respect, he's probably the best of the rest. Okay, that wraps up my picks for game week 35. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for being patient with me while I was away on holiday. I had a lovely time, but I'm back now for the run-in. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.